Hello, this is Pretty Guardian, and today I am going to be talking to you about 5 games that I love so much, and these are all part of a series of games called Choice of Games. Now, most gamers out there probably haven't heard of these, but they are basically novels where you can play through kind of like a choose your own adventure story, and you get to select your path throughout the story. So usually it starts out with some basic character creation. You can usually pick out the name and gender of your character. And then depending on the context of the game, they slowly become more and more involved. First and foremost, these are narrative-based games. So there is not a lot as far as music, sound effects, graphics, any of that. These are effectively books with some advanced coding that gives them a lot of interactive ability. Outside of YouTube, I actually love reading and writing and adventure, and I think that these books tap into that unstoppable power of our imagination. So to start out my list, at number 5, we have a book called The Superlatives. This is a 260,000 word novel written by Alice Ripley. This book takes place back in the Victorian era, and your character taps into the power of ether to use superpowered abilities. So there's kind of this big event that takes out the Justice League, and your character is tasked with reassembling your superhero team, the Superlatives, and you have to save London and the Queen. Overall, I just felt like this story was very evocative, imaginative. There was one specific chapter where you had to get these coins as like demonstrations of the approval of people at a party. So you go to like this big masquerade party type thing, and you can do these different activities to earn these coins. And depending on like what activities you choose to do, you kind of get a different experience of the book. That is kind of a reoccurring theme with a lot of these books. They're definitely ones that I would recommend reading through multiple times. That chapter specifically really impressed me with how they laid it out and actually made it feel kind of like a game. At number 4 on my list is the book Battle Mage: Magic by Mail. This book was released August 12th of 2021 and written by an author named Nick Barkdale. This is one of the shorter books that I'm covering today, coming in at 168,000 words. So for me as an author, usually like 60,000 words is kind of the base that I shoot for with a book, but a good book comes in a wide variety of sizes. Some are smaller, some are longer. With the choice of games, I like to participate in adventures that are over 100,000 words, specifically because when you're doing a single playthrough of these books, you're not necessarily going to get to experience that full adventure. So like, let's say with the last one that I was talking about, 260,000 words, in a single playthrough, you might only get 100,000 or 120,000. I want to have like a nice full experience of a game. This one, Battle Mage, is one of the shorter ones that I've played. Your main character is basically a squire trying to become a knight, and at the same time, you are taking these correspondence courses that are sent to you where you learn about magic. But the knight that you're working for does not like magic. He thinks it is dirty trickery. And so there's kind of this like subterfuge going on where it's like, do I use my magic? Do I hide it from him? And there's just a lot of gameplay kind of involving that. Overall, I thought it was a cute and fun story to play through. At number 3 on my list is the book Dragon and the Djinn. This one was released July 28th, 2022, and written by Athar Fikri. This is one of the longer ones that I've played through, coming in at 700,000 words. So that is a massive undertaking for this author to have gone through, but they delivered a really fun finished product. There are some allusions that you might find to like the tale of Aladdin and some other Middle Eastern fairy tales. And I really enjoyed that the author took us there. It displayed a trust in their audience that you don't necessarily see with a lot of authors. Just as an example, there were a lot of Arabic words included, like the word Saeed, that I had to go and look up. Saeed means like a lord, or it can also be kind of a formal and respectful form of address. Kind of like calling somebody sir or master or something like that. And so some of these I was able to pick up through context clues, but then other bits and pieces I had to kind of Google and search up myself. But I actually really appreciated that. It took me to a place that I'm not used to seeing in a fantasy setting, and it delivered a really fun and interesting story. One of the things that I thought was really creative is their use of magic in this story. So you can cast spells, but it's not necessarily stuff like where you would throw a fireball. It's more like the character has to use their will and imagination to kind of coerce the landscape and the environment to adjusting itself based on the spell that they're casting. So like you can put your hands on a wall and imagine that the wall is softening to the point where you can push through it, and then suddenly the wall crumbles and you're able to get past it. It's just kind of a different take on magic, and overall the story was just really inspired. So definitely one that I feel good about recommending to you today. These last two games on my list are definitely two of my favorites within this genre of choice F games. I would actually rank them both equally, but they're very different genres, as you'll find out when I start talking about them. So at number 2 on my list is the game Choice of Magics. I want to read the review to you that was on the Steam store. And the reason I wanted to share this review is because it's the one that actually inspired me to purchase the game. It's actually like the most basic review in the world, but it was written by Lunar Entity. And they wrote, "This game is the closest you can get to playing D&D in video game format. If you like tabletop RPGs and interactive storytelling, don't pass this up." So in this one, you start out in these ruins where you're uncovering like an ancient artifact, and you get to pick out these different schools of magic that your character can specialize in to help you get through that task and then the rest of the game. One of the things that I thought was really incredible is that I actually was really inspired by this game, so I wanted to play through it a second time. And when I got towards what I thought was going to be the ending, because I had made a different series of choices, it actually took me on a completely different adventure towards that final act of the game. And what it revealed to me in that second playthrough just added so much more depth and realism to their world. So once again, these are games that are really good to get a second playthrough of because of how much your choices can impact what you're doing in the game. And I will say that this one very much did feel like playing through a solo D&D campaign. So I absolutely loved it for that as well. This book came out on August 10th, 2018 and is 550,000 words, written by Kevin Gold. And finally, at number 1 on my list is the book Tally Ho. This was written by Craig Segal. It comes in at 600,000 words and came out on December 14th of 2017. So Tally Ho also takes place in, I was gonna say the Victorian era, but it's really not. It's kind of more like the 1920s. So there is some technology there, like cars and telephones and things, but it does feel like a very grounded period piece. I say grounded loosely. This book is hilarious. There's a lot of comedy. So my character, I named her after myself, except I chose the last name Poppins from one of their like lists of names. So my character's name was Maggie Poppins, and she serves as this lady's maid. So like I help her get ready and help her keep up her social appearances. And then you just go through like all these little adventures. There's like this whole secret society for servants where they have to take on these like special missions. I don't know. There's a lot going on here, but the comedy was really well written. I found myself laughing out loud multiple times and just having a really good time with it. And that is why Tally Ho made number 1 on my list. So I do want to give people a few like tips for navigating these games. My tip number 1 is to select books that are written with a higher word count than what you would usually pick for a novel, just so you have more actual gameplay to play through. If you're somebody who's comfortable with a shorter book, then definitely feel free to do that if that's what works best for you. Tip number 2, and this is something that I did with a few of them, but not all of them, is you can actually go on like YouTube or something and look up a playlist. So like, let's say for superlatives, you can look up like steampunk music and then have steampunk music playing in the background as you read through your story. And it can kind of help you get immersed into the world or the setting a little bit more to kind of pick music that's themed around the game that you're playing. And you can add that in for yourself if that's something that you care about. And then my last tip is to play the game multiple times if it's one that you really enjoyed. You will find different choices, different scenes, different things that you can unlock and do. And a lot of times, some of those scenes can actually help build out the world of the game that you're playing and kind of help you connect the dots that maybe you didn't get to connect the first time through. So that is everything I have to say today about choice of games. You should definitely check them out. If you enjoyed my video, please remember to like and subscribe because my channel is still growing. So everybody who does that is doing me a huge favor and just helping take this channel to the next level. So until next time, this is Pretty Guardian, logging out.